Thank you so much and congratulations to the web premiere of Home Again. I wanted to start out by asking you, from what I read, you start making films kind of for NGOs or documentaries for other organizations, and this is kind of your first creative or more observational documentary. So how was that shift for you, being more independent in your work, kind of?
Yes, in the Gambia there's not much of media work, so the very few that are there get quite busy, especially my company that works for all these UN agencies, government institutions and international partners. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of commission work, and those commission work kind of gave me the interest of this, because I've done almost most of the IAM videos you see from the Gambia, and they usually on the other end of the narrative, controlled, choreographed narrative to tell people, no, you cannot go, this person came here because he made it like this and that. And then if you talk to Don and Tiny, that is why IAM was very furious when they saw this film. Yeah, we had a whole week battle, basically, on why do we have to tell this film. So, but yeah, because they were expecting me to continue the narrative that I've been continuing, but with regards to migration, it goes beyond me or Paabi or our little interests, because it shapes our environment. Who we are in the Gambia for the past 2 decades or so is a phenomenon that is affecting every household. So at some point I thought, what could we do? Which voice can we give? So yeah.
You mentioned the IOM having a problem with the way the documentary kind of plays out. Is it in general that international organizations in the Gambia only want to be portrayed in a positive way, or that their work is portrayed in a positive way?
Not IOM per se, because IOM were not a major character in this story. IOM was just an access point to get Paabi, because in the Gambia, IOM monopolized anything that has to do with migration. So everything has to come through them. So I needed for me to get Paabi on the first day, because I met Paabi. The shot you saw is the first day I met Paabi, and only IAM could authorize that. And even if migrants want it, if IAM don't want it, they have ways to block it. So that is just how IAM came into the story. But they were kind of interested in the story because, yes, Babucarr, that is a partner to us, is doing a film like this. So we're hoping it's going to sell part of our narrative that the 1,000 euros we're giving these migrants is solving the migration crisis. So when you watch the film, until the last 5 minutes before, Paabi said, I'm never going back to this journey. That is, after 1 year of filming, Paabi didn't want to go back. And we were thinking that was going to be the story. But there was a time that I paused and said, okay, that's the film. And then a lot of things happened within Paabi's family. His uncles evicted him, too many things when the money ran out. And then he decided to go back. So I said, let me film that again. So that last part of Paabi going back, to IAM they felt it was, it signifies that what the intervention is not working. And even if that story should be told, it should not be told by me, that it's more like a partner to me.
What made you choose Paabi for that film? What made you special for him as a protagonist of your film?
I didn't, it fit me, because as I said, I just met Paabi on the same day. But their criteria, the questions I asked, the interest, but also there is proximity. Where you're going, will I be able to access you? A lot of people from that group, I couldn't. Paabi was not my first character. I met another character before this that I had to change for certain reasons. So, yeah, I think fit. But I felt a connection with Paabi from the first minutes. And I do not regret that I chose him. Yeah.
I think a big point that your film makes, and that you also talked about in the discussion before, is that how Paabi and a lot of Africans that migrate to Europe are responsible kind of for their whole family, and not just for making money for themselves or making lives better for themselves. So kind of how did you think that was the main motivation for Paabi to kind of go again, because he felt so much pressure from his family?
Let me confirm if my Gambian brothers are here. I think they lead. But there are a lot of Paabis in Germany right now, and they were supposed to make it in this event. And some of them I was, okay, one of them is there. Okay, some of them I lived with, and then the push factors are a lot. The push factors, example, me that came to Germany the last 2-3 days, posting pictures of heaven and selling it to them. And they said, yes, I need to go to this heaven. But also the next guy in the next house building for his father. Like you could hear somewhere they're saying, boy is able to do this for his father. This guy is supposed to do this. And if your family from an extended family especially, where a polygamous family, one son from the other mother is doing this for their mother, sometimes your mother tells him, okay, do you see what the other guys are doing? So sometimes it's that. And in the Gambia, migration is very important. Like 62% of our GDP comes from remittances, from migrants. So it's not a small thing. And because the reason that there's that much remittance is because it's profitable somehow for people that are making it. So Paabi and many other migrants think, yes, let's give it a try. Even though it's dangerous, let's give it a try. So those are the things.
Yeah, I think what you said is kind of important to mark as well, and I think Tiny has said it before, that the income of money into the African continent is mostly by the diaspora. It's way bigger than the income from the Western world that's kind of financing, or from the NPOs. So actually a lot of countries are financed by the diaspora, and I think that you're changing that image of narration as well. It's kind of Europe is always telling that we're sending so much money to Europe, but as you can see in the film, a lot of money is also going to Morocco, Algeria, Libya, and countries who are trying to stop African migrants to come to Europe, kind of. Was that important for you, the aspect to fit into the film? Or was that just because it's part of the story of these kind of migrants?
Now, okay, I'm a journalism student, even though I don't consider myself a journalist. I work a lot with NGOs, so I was fed with a lot of information about migration. But I didn't come with this big motivation to say, this is what I want to tell.
Yeah.
When I sat, we were all concerned about migration. I've done quite a few films, maybe a fiction film and thing, but they all center around migration because it is very important in our community. So in 2015-16, I read about EU leaders meeting African leaders in Malta to discuss ways to tackle this migration crisis. And they created the EU Trust Fund for Africa, which was initially about 1.8 billion euros, EU taxpayers' money, to tackle the root causes of migration, poverty and conflict, but also to fortify EU borders to make sure it is difficult for people like Paabi to go. So they were funding countries in the route to make sure they catch the smugglers so that they cannot go. So Paabi has tried twice, and those things are the reasons why he couldn't. But now on the other end was, African leaders were telling them, we cannot stop migration as far as there's not opportunities. So this part of that money was, let's create opportunities for them in Africa so that they will not have the need to come. So the film, I just said, okay, if this much money from EU taxpayers is coming to Africa, let me investigate, is it working? And that's the only question I was asking. There's no big motivation or scenario to say, this is what I wanted to tell. I wanted to follow Paabi without questions, without technicalities. If you see the film, it's very raw. I shot it, edited it, directed it, edited everything, because I didn't want crew and everything to affect the story. I just wanted to be more about me and Paabi as we sit in rooms and feel safe. So I didn't have any agenda. I didn't want the film to be about somebody that made it. I didn't want the film to be about somebody that didn't make it. I just wanted to find out, is it working, the process of giving Africa this much money to fight conflict and poverty. So in the case of Paabi, it didn't work. In the case of his friend, it worked. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm now opening questions to the audience. I think there's 2 here in the front.
I wanted to ask, how is he? How is the character? Where is he? Did he make it? Where?
Yes. As I was saying in previous panel, Paabi is right now in Libya. Just yesterday we were talking, he was talking about his choices because he really wants to come back to Gambia and try legal means. Actually within this route, they don't have the money to be going. When Paabi was going, he didn't have the money. But they go to a country, walk a little bit and go, and when he got to Niger, his strategy was, let me be a smuggler, because I know these routes, I've been here there before. And then they were paying him a lot of money. All of that money he was sending back to me to keep for him to come back and try legal means. But if you're in the Gambia, it is impossible for Paabi to have legal means to come to Europe. I went through hell to be in this festival. The organizers know what I went through to be here. So it is almost impossible. But now he went to Tunisia, checked the shores, studied the place, and realized it is not possible for me to enter because there's a lot of defense in the river. And when they catch you, they take you to prison. When they catch you, they call it detention center. But you're there, they give you an option. Are you going to stay in prison, or are we going to return you to your house? It's not like, is there an option of stepping out of the prison and finding your way? So what they call voluntary migrants that come and receive this money from IM are those people that were caught in the sea, kept in detention centers and given these two options. So Paabi is afraid of trying the sea right now because he's not sure if he can maneuver these people. Because if he fails, he's going to prison. He spends in one journey, he spent nine months in prison. They will electrocute you and call your family member and say, send us 2,000 euros now or we kill him. And sometimes they kill you. So he's afraid of that because he's been through it over and over. So as we speak right now, Paabi is standing in the rivers of Libya studying the routes. He keeps telling me, I want to come home and try to make it to Europe in the safest way. But is it possible?
Hi, firstly, congratulations for the films. I have a question. What is the balance? I don't know if you know it, but what is the balance between success and failure in this IOM program? Because you show us one succeeded and the other one didn't. So
now, I might be the wrong person to ask that question because most of the information I get is from IM. You understand? But it is. While I was researching the story, was very difficult for you to have access to IM. There are a lot of returnees that were coming, but they didn't have access to the funds. But IM were reforming that to say anybody that comes, you're going to get the funds, but you're not getting the cash. We're going to make sure, because IM realized that a lot of people that they give this money to, they use it to fund their next trip. So IM is struggling with that dilemma. So, and they're not the bad guys. Let me say that. Even though sometimes I think the politics, the political correctness and these things gives off terms that when you think of the lives of migrants is a different scenario, but they're not the bad guys. Because if they give Paabi enough money, Paabi's brother will say, let me go and fail and come and get enough money like Paabi. If they give Paabi less money, Paabi will say, it's not worth it for me to come to the Gambia. Let me keep moving. So that dilemma, how do you manage it? I don't have the answers. I am here to find the answer. Because it's a difficult scenario. And perhaps why I keep thinking this is not IAM problem, is not a Paabi problem. It's an institutional problem that family has a very important thing to do. A lot of what happened couldn't be shown in this film. Like the other guy that made it, when he came, in Paabi's family, there's nobody that can write their name. And there are more than 40 people living there. Everybody is an illiterate. In the other guy's family, he's a head teacher that has retired, the father. And when IM gave them the money, he said, this is too small. I'm giving you my own money on top of it, and I will not ask you for a dime before you're able to establish yourself. In Paabi's family, come on, the money is here. Can I get seedlings to farm tomorrow? Can I get food tomorrow? So that dynamics is different. That's why I keep trying to avoid trying to tell Paabi what to do, because my family dynamics is very different from him. That is why I was trying to understand that through this film, to know what is it. But more important, Paabi wanted to stay in the Gambia, but he's from a difficult family. But another thing too is, if you come from Gambia, we externalize the responsibilities and the blame too much to Europe, to IM, and all these things, and it's not within. And at the end of the day, EU is not going to wait for any other, Europe is not going to wait for any other place to develop it. Even though Europe contributed to the situation where Paabi is now, because it's a generational thing, but at some times which everyone should take agency to make sure the lives of people that are around you is better. And then when to governments where I live, they talk about migration only as the numbers they need, statistics they need to look for funds. Like in that Valita meeting, they told them, okay, you guys cannot tell us to stop migration if you're not giving us enough people, support to help people like Paabi. But is that when that money comes, is it put in the right place? Is it done right? Opportunities for Paabi and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I think us, the people, the families, the institutions, the governments should do more. IAM is caught up in this dilemma. But as somebody that worked with IAM, one thing I don't like is when we talk about migration, let's be more open-minded. It's always a red flag when you talk about going. And going is part of migration. It's going and coming. But it's almost about coming, always about coming. And IGRIS is an international organization for migration, not returnees and whatever. So it should be balanced for us to understand. Because to me, why this film is important to me is we've tried too many solutions for the past 5 years mostly, since that multi things, but it's not working. Every day people are going. Because we are not very honest with the solutions we're doing. We're not very strategic because we're not involving all these things. So yeah. Sorry, I talked too much.
It's fine.
Thank you, Babucarr, for the film. I wanted to ask about the brothers in Europe, if you know anything about them and their experience in Europe. The family characterizes it as they're enjoying themselves in Europe. Is that true? Did you make any contact with them?
No, I didn't make any contact with them. Because there are a lot that couldn't be shown in this film. There's a lot of family issues there because it's a polygamous family. The day I arrived with Paabi, Don and Tiny have seen the Rosses. There was a lot of shouting in the day, like, who is Paabi to come back and cameramen follow him? How important are you? And from his family, the family that is in Birkam. Like our sons and daughters have gone and nobody cared about them. Why are you here as a cameraman? I felt that. Because to them it's a competition. So, to the brothers that are there, it is my responsibility to take care of my mother, and it's your responsibility to take care of the children of your mother. So, I didn't want to go also, because I was given a lot of access, but I didn't want to abuse it. I didn't want to overstep my boundaries to get into family issues. There are actually stories that Paabi shared about the family that I thought will haunt him later. Even though it was kind of good for the film, I had to take it out. Like the uncle that evicted him. The uncle contributed very much to why Paabi left in the first place, because when Paabi came, he gave him the money and said, can you guide me through business? He wasted the money. And Paabi couldn't do anything. But Paabi used very difficult language with the uncle that I know. Okay, this is the guy that from the age 3, because his father has too many children, he cannot keep them in one house. You have to be distributing them to families across the country because he cannot feed them. And that was his case with this uncle. So he has raised you from age 3 to this level. I don't want the film to create an eternal problem. So there's a lot of family dynamics there that makes it difficult for you to have an open discussion. Yeah.
Paabi is also one of the oldest, not the oldest, but one of the older siblings, right? To her mother, he's the oldest. Mm-hmm. But he has almost every other person that you've seen in this film is older than Paabi. All the other brothers here, they're older than him. But I think maybe that also plays part in the pressure or his role that's put on him, is because if you're one of the older ones or the oldest, people put more responsibility kind of on you.
Yeah, one of the oldest, even though they are older people, but to the mother, I am the oldest, and you need to do something for your mother, because it's a polygamous family. The other two that went, one is not his father's child. The father's brother died traveling, and then he inherited the wife with all the children. And that guy is in Europe, doesn't care. Oh, it's not my family, my father died. My mother is there, I can help my mother. I don't care about the rest of my father's children. So that's kind of the situation. You know, the other guy that went, I don't know if he's making it in Europe, is it easy or not? But one thing I know is I live with people that have left Europe, left Gambia from 2012, 2013. It is not easy. Europe is not as easy as these people tell it, because, come on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for a really powerful film. And it's kind of built on the last question. I mean, you followed Paabi for a year. You became embedded in this family, relationships I'm sure formed. And I'm just wondering, can you speak a little bit about your own kind of feelings of responsibility, ethical relationships to Paabi? I mean, I'm sure that's a relationship that will continue on perhaps for the rest of your life. Yeah, so in terms of your relationship to the subjects.
I have not figured out the answer to that question yet, because it's difficult. Because when I went to Paabi, the family looked at me as somebody that has figured out life. Even though I have not. To hand over Paabi to me as a responsibility to lead Paabi through the right path, because he's young, uneducated, has no opportunities. But I needed to tell a story, an authentic story. So right now, even after the film, I keep remembering the father keeps calling me. Are you coaching Paabi? Are you giving him advice, even while in Europe, all these things? So there's always an ethical dilemma of, am I a brother to Paabi, or am I a cameraman following his life? And there were supports I could have given Paabi immediately, that if I had given, it would have helped Paabi's situation. But the importance of telling the stories of people like Paabi, which there are many, it's going to be lost in the process. Like, this is 1 year process of getting $1,000 euros. So I had the possibilities of giving him 1,000 euros, but will the world see the process of other people that are not Paabi, how they go through to get that 1,000 euros, and how does it help them to have a living in Africa?
So from my side also, thank you for this film, and congratulations that Paabi let you so close and opened himself so much. What I asked myself, because many of my friends, mostly coming from Cameroon as refugees, they had this problem that the families were expecting that they are giving them money, and they were struggling so hard for so many years, and so they had been in this dilemma, and when they explained the situation, being in asylum camps or something, then the families didn't believe them. But what do you think? What do you think that maybe there's a little bit more knowledge actually about the situation of people in Europe, that they started to understand it in a better way?
Now, if you come from Africa, the word dignity is a little bit more complex. When you show Paabi, the first day he arrived, he made sure he looked good before he saw his family. He spends money on that in dresses. You think of it as stupid, but if you're from Africa, when you go, you don't want to come back as failure. So it was important to present himself in the best image. To your friends that are in this place, no matter how hard is it, they're not going to present the truth. They have to be in their best image, because the idea of failing it's worse than death to some of them. So the moment the word Europe, like you could hear somebody fully telling them you are now Malongo. Malongo means somebody that has successfully traveled, and they're trying to detach it. The moment such words are attached to you, it is almost your responsibility to take care of others. So it's like, I may not find the words, but it's test of manhood to decide, are you now man enough? Are you now successful enough? Because around your community, you have seen people that have done it. They've got cars for their parents, they've got this for their people, they've got this. So no matter how hard is it, I know people that were in asylum centers, they were giving stipends to survive. They will keep it, so that at least in a month, they can say, this food that we're eating is from X, Y, and Z. So, to me, they're very honest with me. They tell me their stories, which is very different from what they send to their fathers and brothers. Sometimes I am in Gambia, I send people money to Europe. There are my brothers, because they cannot get a telephone to call. They cannot get, because it's difficult, especially when you're undocumented. But they will never sell that story to people that are there that look at them like this, and the societal expectation is this. So it's difficult if you're not from there, but the idea of dignity is important. That is why Paabi has to look good. When he got money, he has to go to every family that he knows to sell, even though it's 2 euros or 3 euros, take it, this is from me, from that money. Because it's part of validation that I have made it.
Okay, so I want to ask, do you have plans to distribute this content to like really local audiences in Gambia, especially to the very young audience who aren't his age yet, who probably will be planning on embarking on this journey as well, because it's really important that these young people see this film, learn from it, and make better decisions.
Yes, I'll answer as a film, but also as part of a collection, which is Generation Africa, which I believe has sufficiently handled every aspect of African migration. And the films will make sure go through every corner. Either my film or The Last Shelter, that shows you more of what Paabi could have gone through when he goes through this place, or The No U-Turn, or any of these films can give you sufficient information. But personally, if I will call something success, is to have a conversation between the institutions that are implementing these things, the politicians, the families, and the migrants, to decide, to review the reintegration process. Because to me, what is happening, what is there, and the model that is there is not working. I don't know how it will work. I don't know the answer. But review of the reintegration process of migrants that are coming back. Because if Paabi fails, enters the boat and fails, he's going to prison. After 6 months, 1 year, he's going back to IAM, and IAM is going to give him another 1,000 euros. He'll go try to business. If the business doesn't work, he enters again, and the cycle continues and continues and continues. So right now, it's not working. So biggest success for me is a review of the migration process. But also, I will personally want to meet families. Because to me, a lot of people watch this film and kind of think it's against their interests. We want to at least have a screening in one of these detention centers for them to know the people that are in the middle of going and coming back, for them to know what is the dialogue, what is it back home. Yeah. And let me plug in something. You heard, even though it's not part of the question, you heard Paabi mention there that he wanted a taxi from IAM, but IAM's money couldn't get a taxi because a taxi costs about 4,000 euros, and IAM only gives 1,000 euros. I am pleading after this, maybe you will see a link somewhere. I am trying, at least by the course of this film, to get Paabi a taxi at home as a pull factor. Because if he has something in the Gambia, it might tell him, no, turn back, the sea is not for you. Maybe when you go there, you can start something. So anyone can help with that process, I will be glad to help with it. Yeah.
Okay. One question. We've seen a lot of the pushes and pulls on Paabi. Family and economy and inside Gambia, outside Gambia, IOM. What I haven't seen, perhaps there was something, perhaps it couldn't be shown. Does he reflect on his situation? Does he, or is he just driven and does it that way and this way and goes where the wind blows? Sorry for the image.
Come again a little bit. I kind of lost the last part.
Okay.
Is he
just driven and or is he reflecting his situation? I don't see him in the movie reflect his situation, as you and as the film puts it to us.
Yes, I am glad with the last lines, as you and as the film puts it to us, because the style of the film was insufficient to tell us everything that is happening in the life of Paabi. Because it was observational, I couldn't recreate certain things. But there was a lot more happening in the life of Paabi. But also in the story, like I was working with Generation Africa, they were guiding me through the process. Not everything that we had could fit in a story, because there were too many elements that were important in Paabi's life, but confusing to one story. Because after Paabi failed, he tried to open a shop. Even to get a place to rent or access was difficult. To open another bit, so he tried a few things. None of them worked. You understand? But also, any time that he has something, more requests is coming from the family, more and more things are happening. And the span between Paabi's failure to deciding he's going to Europe took a while. Paabi didn't want it. But what, to me, was the last straw was when he was kicked out from his house that he's lived for almost 2 decades, because he's no more used there. So he was living with friends, and to him, he was more familiar with the struggles of the road than these streets that had him. And when I called the father, I arranged a meeting for them to reconcile, because it was his uncle that raised him. The father said, the uncle is right, because Paabi smokes a lot, and the uncle don't like smoking. The uncle smokes. The uncle smokes, but he needed a reason to kick Paabi out. So he said one day Paabi was not in the room. He just came home and said, there's too much, I'm smelling a lot of cannabis in this house and I don't want that. Came and knocked down the door. Paabi was not there. When Paabi came in the evening, he said, pack out. I didn't film it, I was not there. But that night, Paabi had nowhere to go unless to me. And then we had to scout in places on where to find place. But within a week or two, Paabi has decided that I'm more familiar to the streets than what Gambia has for me right now.
Okay, to wrap up, one last question. You already talked about that you are producing this film with Steps Together in the Generation Africa process. Can you tell us just how you came together? Did you apply first to the program and come with the story, or did you kind of create the story through the program?
Now, first, let me thank Generation Africa for this opportunity that they've given me and 25 other filmmakers, or even more when you count the producers in Africa, because we have had stories in our minds. Either we didn't have the funds to do it, or we didn't have the technical know-how of how. And they have, like every time I'll text Tani and say, call her my babysitter, they've taken us through the steps. Most of us, it was our first film. But most importantly is helping us find our voices. In the panel that came before us with the producers, a similar question was asked, how do you cooperate, cooperation between people from different countries, but also from Europe? When I came to STEPS, it was just an email that I got, and then I applied, and then I was selected, we went to Gambia. But when I came, I was not very sure, because I had just done one film with some people in Netherlands, and the film is not still the most successful Gambian film, but I hate the film so much because of how it made me feel, because my voice was silent through the process, but because they had the money, and I needed the film to be made, I couldn't have a voice in the film, and I wrote the film. Like, I will just see, like, when I know that there's a festival, I just see it on Facebook. I don't even know when it's, I don't know anything about the film, because the producers that brought the money hijacked it with from the voice that of a writer, from the process. And then I was skeptical when we came to STEPS, because is it going to be the same thing? But throughout, one thing that I only heard was, we are confused. Help us understand. It's not tell this story. They never told me that. They told me, we are confused. Help me understand. And sometimes it's frustrating, because what Tiny understands is very different from what Don understands, and it's very different from what Ika understands and the editing. So I have to tailor for everybody. And sometimes I'm tired of the whole process. I will leave the project for 2 months and not even look at the footage. And then until I get it and come back. But all they were asking me is, help us understand. And why did I do that? Why was I listening? As Soko was saying, is the most important goal with me was to respect Paabi. My voice is important, but not as important as Paabi's voice. So if they didn't do it, but if STEPS was to do anything that disrespected Paabi's voice, I would not have done it at all. But in the process, none of that happened. But I was ready to learn from this process, from people that have been there, done that, to tell me, because I was assuming if Don doesn't understand it and he's been to many festivals, maybe the people in the audience might not understand it. Because I packed too many things in the story, too many things that I thought was important to understand the context. But it was confusing, too many characters, too many stories, too many things. But yeah, I had very supporting consulting editors. Tiny was there, even things that are not about the film. Anytime I'm depressed, I call and tell her, okay, this is going on, I don't, and they're there to listen. So it has been a good experience on helping us find our voice and not being the white man in our stories. And I'll emphasize that. Sometimes when you work with us, especially my other film, I like to know, I want to feel that I'm talking to another person, not another race. And usually, when we get into these collaborations, we are treated in ways that we feel that we are talking to superior people. And then it turns me off. Right now, I've written some films that I need to write. I'm thinking, do I need to go back to those people that I don't like how they treated me because they have the money? Or do I stay 5 years trying to look for the money to do this film and get it done with dignity? And thank you, STEPS, for allowing us to tell these stories with dignity, to find our voices, even though it is, in the beginning, I didn't say, this is my voice, and I was trying to figure it out along the process. And along the way, as I watch this film, I'm trying to think, what is there that I didn't want it to be there? None. What is there that I am embarrassed about? None. It is my voice, but it was guided through a process. And thank you, Generation Africa, for that.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
I just need to say something.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm the Don that he talks about, and this is the Tiny. I just want to say this is one of these 25 documentary films from 16 countries across Africa about migration, which the Deutsche Welle Academy, with the funding from the BMZ, the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, understood that if we tell stories, or we bring these stories to an audience in Africa and get people to talk about the complexities of migration, more will happen than trying to build these security checks for 168 billion euros. right? So that's very important. The next thing is that all these films will be on ARTE. They will be released on ARTE.tv, ARTE.tv, on the 10th of June, all 25 films. And on television on the 10th, 14th, and 15th of June, 7 of the co-productions will be on television. So they're all available. Babucarr's film will screen again here on the 14th at 9 p.m. Tell people, because it opens up a whole different understanding, because these are stories from Africans, from inside Africa, telling real stories about the situation there. So, thank you.
Then I just want to invite you all to come at 7 p.m. to America House to watch the last film for today, No Simple Way Home. Thank you all for coming, and a big round of applause for Babucarr one last time.